Your parents bought their first house for $85,000 in 1992, or that same house today, $420,000. Meanwhile, your salary is maybe twice what theirs was. The math doesn't work. You already know this. What you might not know is that every single piece of traditional financial advice you've been handed is built on an economy that no longer exists. Save 10%, skip the daily coffee, make a budget. It's all noise. You cannot budget your way out of a structural crisis. The game board has fundamentally changed, and if you're still playing by 1995 rules in 2026, you're going to lose. Hard. My name is Nick, and today I'm breaking down why trying to live a normal middle-class life will bankrupt you, and more importantly, what you actually need to do instead. Let's start with housing, because this is where the entire system reveals itself as fundamentally broken. The median home price in the United States right now hovers around $400,000. In many markets where jobs actually exist, that number is your entry point for a starter home. Not a dream home, a starter home, 3 bedrooms, maybe a garage if you're lucky, in a neighborhood where the schools are decent enough that your future kids won't be fighting in the parking lot by 8th grade. Here's the problem. According to recent data, middle-income buyers can afford just 21% of homes currently for sale. Before the pandemic, that number was 50%. Read that again. Half the market was accessible. Now it's 1/5. Mortgage rates jumped from 3% in 2021 to above 7% by 2023. Even though rates have moderated slightly, they're not dropping below 6% in 2026, according to most economists. Your monthly payment on that $400,000 house is over $1,000 higher than it would have been just 4 years ago. What do people do when faced with this reality? They stretch, they convince themselves that spending 45% of their gross income on housing is temporary. They tell themselves they'll refinance when rates drop. They become prisoners. You're not building wealth when half your paycheck disappears into a mortgage payment. You're surviving. You're one job loss, one medical emergency, one transmission failure away from a foreclosure notice. The housing trap is brutal, but let's talk about cars, because this is where people commit financial self-destruction without even realizing it. The average new car payment in America is over $700 a month. Trucks? We're talking $1,200 monthly. Do the math on a 7-year loan at those rates. You're paying $130,000 for a vehicle that will be worth $15,000 when you finally own it outright. But everyone does it, right? Everyone has a car payment. It's normal. Here's what I need you to understand. Normal is broken. Normal means being permanently trapped in a cycle where you're paying interest to banks for the privilege of looking successful while actually being broke. You can afford to be weird, or you can afford to be normal. You cannot afford both. The Economic Policy Institute released a study claiming that single Americans need over $100,000 annually just to live comfortably in 2026. For a family with 3 kids, that number jumps to $280,000. These aren't luxury lifestyle numbers. This is rent or mortgage, groceries, childcare, health insurance, and maybe one vacation that doesn't involve sleeping in your car. The traditional middle-class life now requires an income level that would have been considered wealthy a decade ago. So what's the alternative? How do you actually build wealth when the foundation everyone told you to stand on has collapsed? You start with something nobody wants to hear. Getting to your first $100,000 in savings is going to take forever and feel terrible. If you invest $500 a month at an 8% return, it doesn't take 7 years, it takes 10 years and 8 months. That is an entire lost decade. During this entire period, you are doing all the heavy lifting. Compound interest is not your friend yet. It's barely paying attention to you. You're pushing a boulder uphill in the dark, and every time you look up, the summit seems farther away. But there's a specific milestone that changes everything, and it comes way before that $100,000 mark. It's $20,000. This is the number where you transition from survival mode to growth mode. Until you have $20,000 in liquid savings, every unexpected expense is a crisis. Your car needs a new transmission, crisis. Your kid breaks their arm, crisis. The water heater dies, crisis. You're making decisions based on fear because you have no buffer. Once you cross 20,000, something shifts. That same transmission repair is annoying, sure, but it's not a disaster. You can handle it without a credit card, without a payday loan, without calling your parents. This psychological shift matters more than people realize. You start making decisions based on opportunity rather than desperation. You can negotiate for a better job because you're not terrified of a 2-week gap in paychecks. You can invest in yourself, take calculated risks, think beyond next month. Which brings us to the order of operations, because this is where most people get it catastrophically wrong. If you have credit card debt at 22% interest and you're putting money into index funds hoping for an 8% return, you are actively losing 14% annually. You're trying to fill a bucket that has a hole in the bottom. Pay off the high interest debt first. This isn't sexy advice. It doesn't involve crypto or real estate or day trading, but it's a guaranteed return that beats almost every investment strategy on earth. The only exception? Your employer match on retirement contributions. If your company offers a match, that's free money. A 100% immediate return. Take it. But beyond that match, every extra dollar should be attacking the debt until it's gone. Now, you might be thinking this sounds impossible. How am I supposed to save $500 a month when I can barely cover my current expenses? The answer is uncomfortable. You have to stop pretending you can afford the life you're currently living. This means accepting a truth that most people refuse to face. The life you're living right now. You can't actually afford it, not because you're irresponsible or bad with money, but because the numbers don't work. That apartment or house you're renting or paying a mortgage on takes 40% of your income instead of the recommended 25%. The car in your driveway costs more per month than your parents' first mortgage payment. Your grocery bill has doubled since 2020. You're not living extravagantly, you're living normally, and normal is now financially unsustainable for most Americans. Let's talk about what cutting back actually means in practice. Not the Dave Ramsey make your own laundry detergent nonsense, but real structural changes. Can you get a roommate? I know you're 35 and that feels humiliating. Do it anyway. Splitting rent saves you $600 to $1,200 a month, depending on your market. That's $7,000 to $14,000 per year. Over 5 years, that's $35,000 to $70,000. Do you know what $70,000 invested at 8% becomes over 20 years? $290,000. You traded your pride for $350,000. What about your car? The average new car payment is $737 according to Edmunds. Some trucks are pushing $1,200. You're paying a mortgage on something that loses 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. A 3-year-old Honda Civic that you buy with cash for $12,000 will get you to work just as effectively as a $50,000 pickup truck. The difference is $40,000 plus 6 years of compound interest. That's not frugality. That's basic math. But here's where it gets psychologically difficult. Your coworkers will judge you. Your family might make comments. You'll feel like you're going backwards while everyone else is moving forward. Let them think that. They're drowning in car payments and can't admit it. You're building an empire in silence. This is the part nobody prepares you for. The emotional cost of being smart with money in a culture that measures success by what you drive and where you live. You'll go to dinner with friends who just bought a house and they'll talk about their renovation plans while you're living with a roommate and driving a car from 2018. It will feel like you're losing. You're not. They're spending their future. You're buying yours back. Now let's address the timeline problem, because this is where most people give up. 7 years and 9 months to hit $100,000 at $500 per month feels impossibly long. And you're right. It is long. But you know what else is long? 40 years at a job you hate because you can't afford to leave. Choose your hard. The mistake people make is treating that first 20,000 like it's meaningless. It's not. That 20,000 is the most important money you'll ever save. because it changes your decision-making framework entirely. Before that threshold, you're making choices based on fear. Should I take this job even though I hate it? Yes, because I can't risk 2 weeks without a paycheck. Should I negotiate my salary? No, because what if they pull the offer? Should I start that side business? Absolutely not, because I need every hour of guaranteed income. After 20,000, different questions become possible. Should I take this job even though I hate it? Maybe not. I have 4 months of expenses saved. I can take some time to find something better. Should I negotiate? Yes, because I'm not desperate. Should I start that side business? I have enough runway to test it for 6 months and see what happens. This is what financial advisors mean when they talk about risk tolerance. They think it's about your personality. It's not. It's about your bank account. Having 20,000 in savings doesn't change who you are. It changes what you can afford to risk. Which brings us to the order of operations, because this is where people sabotage themselves constantly. They start investing before they've stopped bleeding. They're putting money into index funds while paying 22% interest on a credit card. That's not building wealth. That's lighting money on fire while watering a plant. Every dollar you pay toward that credit card debt is a guaranteed 22% return. Show me an investment that beats that consistently. You can't. Even Warren Buffett averages around 20% over his entire career, and he's Warren Buffett, you're not. Pay off the debt. The only exception is your employer match on retirement contributions. If your company matches up to 4%, you contribute exactly 4%. That's a 100% immediate return. Free money. Take it. But everything above that match goes to the debt until it's gone. No exceptions, no rationalizing. People hate this advice because it's not exciting. It doesn't involve stock picks or crypto or real estate deals. It's boring math. But boring math is what builds wealth. Exciting stories are what build debt. Once the high interest debt is eliminated, then we can talk about investing. Then we can discuss Roth versus traditional. Then we can optimize tax strategies, but trying to optimize before you've stopped bleeding is like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic while water pours through the hull. The psychological difficulty here is that progress feels invisible. When you pay off debt, your net worth increases, but your lifestyle doesn't change. There's no new car to show for it. No vacation photos, just a number on a spreadsheet that goes down slower than you'd like. This is why most people quit. They can't see the machine working. But here's what's actually happening beneath the surface. Every payment you make toward that debt is buying back your future income. That credit card was charging you $200 a month in interest. Once it's paid off, that $200 goes into investments instead. Now that money is working for you instead of against you. You've flipped the equation. This is the wealth building secret nobody talks about. It's not about earning more, although that helps. It's about stopping the outflow first, plugging the leaks. Most people are trying to fill a bathtub while the drain is open, wondering why the water level never rises. The drain analogy works for one more critical reason. When you close the drain, the water doesn't just stay level. It starts rising fast because you're no longer fighting gravity. That first year after eliminating debt, you'll watch your savings climb faster than it ever did before. Not because you're earning more, because you stopped the hemorrhaging. But here's where the conversation gets uncomfortable, and I need you to really hear this. The reason most people can't build wealth in 2026 isn't that they don't earn enough. A household making $117,000 puts you in the upper middle class in most of America. You know what percentage of those households are living paycheck to paycheck? Over half. These aren't people struggling to survive. These are people who've been sold a lifestyle they cannot afford, then told the solution is to work harder. The median home price in 2026 sits around $400,000. Mortgage rates are hovering above 6%. That means a typical monthly payment, including insurance and taxes, runs about $3,000. To afford that comfortably, meaning 30% of your gross income, you'd need to make $120,000 a year. But here's the thing. The median household income is $74,000. Do the math. The typical American family cannot afford the typical American house. Not even close. So what happens? Like a People stretch. They convince themselves 45% of their income for housing is fine, just temporary until the next raise, except the raise comes and lifestyle inflates to match it. They're trapped. Not because they're irresponsible, but because they played the game they were told to play. They bought the house in the good school district. They financed the reliable SUV. They did everything right according to the script, and now they're broke. This is the structural problem nobody wants to acknowledge. Home prices have increased roughly 400% since 1990. Median income up 180%. You cannot budget your way out of that gap. You cannot coupon clip your way to homeownership when the math is fundamentally broken. The old advice, skip the latte and save 10%. That's not strategy. That's a joke that stopped being funny 20 years ago. The average new car payment in 2026 exceeds $700 monthly. Trucks, $1,200. People are financing 30-year mortgages on vehicles that'll be worthless in 10 years. They're paying $130,000 over the loan term for something that depreciates to $15,000. But everyone does it, so it feels normal. That's the trap. Normal and smart are not the same thing. Normal in 2026 means signing up for financial captivity with a bow on top. You want to build wealth? You have to accept something most people refuse to consider. You cannot afford to be normal. Normal means house poor. Normal means car payments that consume your raise before you see it. Normal means looking wealthy while being broke. If you want actual wealth, the kind that gives you options and breathing room, you have to walk away from the status game entirely. Drive the paid-off Honda. Rent if buying means stretching. Live below your means so aggressively that people wonder if you're okay financially. Because here's the secret. Looking wealthy and being wealthy are mutually exclusive for most people. You can have the appearance or the reality, but rarely both. The Instagram life costs everything. The boring spreadsheet life buys freedom. Once you've stopped bleeding and built that initial buffer, the compound interest machine starts working, but it takes time. Remember, that first 100,000 is the hardest part. It takes a decade of discipline, but watch what happens after 100,000. The next 100,000 takes only about 5 years, the third, 4 years. By the time you hit 500,000, you're adding 100,000 every 2 years without increasing your contributions. The boulder reaches the top of the hill and gravity flips. Now it's pulling money toward you instead of away from you, but you have to survive the slog phase first. That 20,000 mark I mentioned earlier, that's your psychological turning point. It doesn't sound like much. It's not retirement, it's not life-changing, but it shifts you from survival mode to growth mode. Before 20,000, you're making fear-based decisions. After, you start seeing opportunities. The job offer that pays less but offers better long-term growth becomes viable. The career pivot becomes possible. The negotiation becomes fearless because you're not desperate. Success in 2026 isn't a big house or a luxury car. Success is having walking away money. It's the ability to say no to the job that's killing you. It's not being trapped by golden handcuffs or mortgage payments. It's waking up knowing that if everything went wrong today, you'd be fine for months. That's wealth. Everything else is just expensive decoration. The system is designed to keep you running. More income triggers more expenses. The promotion comes with new expectations. The raise gets absorbed by lifestyle inflation before you notice. You're on a treadmill that speeds up every time you think you're catching up. The only way off is to stop playing their game and start playing yours. You can follow the herd into financial stress, or you can do the math, make the hard choices, and actually build something. The choice has always been yours. Most people just never realize they're choosing. The uncomfortable truth is that most people will ignore everything I just said. They'll watch this video, nod along, maybe even feel motivated for about 36 hours, and then they'll go finance a truck they can't afford because their neighbor just got one. They'll convince themselves they're different, that somehow the math doesn't apply to them, that this time it'll work out. It won't. The economy of 2026 is not designed for your success. It's designed to extract maximum profit from your anxiety about falling behind. Every advertisement, every social media post, every well-meaning relative asking when you're buying a house is pushing you toward decisions that benefit everyone except you. The bank wins when you stretch for that mortgage. The dealership wins when you sign that 7-year loan. The entire system profits from your compliance. But here's what they can't take from you: the ability to say no, the discipline to look stupid for a decade while you build something real, the courage to drive past the nice neighborhoods in your paid-off sedan, knowing you're stacking cash while they're stacking payments. That's your weapon. Use it. If you want the exact step-by-step breakdown of where every dollar should go once you stop hemorrhaging money, I've got a video on the optimal order for investing. It's the tactical playbook for what comes after you've won the mental game. Links in the description. Watch it next if you're serious about this. Otherwise, enjoy the truck payment.